The rain poured down like it had a personal grudge against the city. Droplets raced down the windows of the Golden Spoon Diner, blurring the neon open sign that buzzed faithfully despite the gloomy weather. Inside, the warmth of the place stood in stark contrast to the miserable evening outside. Lily Chen wiped her forehead with the back of her hand as she balanced 3 plates along her arm. At 25, she wasn't exactly where she had planned to be in life, but she was making it work. 3 years at this diner had taught her how to carry impossible loads, both on her serving trays and in her personal life. "Order up for table 7, called out Hank from the kitchen, his voice barely audible over the clinking of cutlery and the buzz of conversation. "Coming," Lily shouted back, quickly delivering the plates she was carrying before rushing to pick up the new order. As a single mom to a 5-year-old daughter named Zoe, Lily had perfected the art of rushing. Rush to drop Zoe at daycare. Rush to her morning classes at community college. Rush to work. Rush home to tuck Zoe in. Then study until her eyes couldn't stay open anymore. Sleep, repeat. The diner was especially packed tonight. Tuesdays were usually slow, but the rain had driven people indoors, seeking comfort in the form of Hank's famous meatloaf and bottomless cups of coffee. Lily didn't mind. More customers meant more tips, and more tips meant maybe, just maybe, she could buy Zoe those light-up sneakers she'd been begging for. The bell above the door jingled, and Lily glanced up out of habit. A tall man in a dark hoodie stepped in, his broad shoulders hunched against the rain. He wore sunglasses despite the dim evening light and kept his head down as he made his way to the far corner of Lily's section. Something about him seemed familiar, but Lily couldn't quite place it. "Be right with you," she called out, finishing up with an elderly couple who needed separate checks because Harold never remembers to bring cash, and I refused to pay for his pie again. When Lily finally made it to the corner table, the man had his menu up, covering most of his face. But those hands, she recognized those rings. Her heart skipped a beat as she realized who was sitting in her section. "Can I get you something to drink?" she asked casually, acting as if she hadn't just realized she was serving none other than Big Shaq, the British rapper and comedian who had blown up the internet with his viral hits. He lowered the menu slightly, eyes meeting hers from behind the sunglasses. There was a silent plea there, the universal celebrity request, "Please don't make a scene." Lily gave him a small nod and a warm smile. "Our coffee's fresh, and Hank makes a mean chocolate milkshake if you're in the mood for something sweet." The tension in his shoulders eased a bit. "Coffee sounds good, thanks. And whatever you recommend for dinner." "The meatloaf's our specialty. Comes with mashed potatoes and green beans. Simple but good." "Perfect," he said, handing her the menu. As Lily turned to put in his order, she noticed a group of teenagers by the door, pointing in Big Shaq's direction and pulling out their phones. One of them nudged another, whispering excitedly. Lily had seen this before. Celebrity comes in for a quiet meal, gets swarmed by fans, leaves without eating, and Lily gets stiffed on the tip. But beyond that, she genuinely felt bad for the guy. Everyone deserved a peaceful meal, famous or not. She placed his order and kept an eye on the teenagers, who were now definitely working up the courage to approach. By the time she brought Big Shaq his coffee, they were halfway across the diner, phones at the ready. What happened next would change Lily's life forever, though she had no way of knowing it as she set down that simple cup of coffee in front of a man just trying to enjoy a quiet dinner on a rainy Tuesday night. Lily glanced over her shoulder at the approaching teenagers, their phones already recording as they whispered excitedly to each other. She looked back at Big Shaq, who was now hunched further over his coffee, clearly sensing the unwelcome attention. Without thinking twice, Lily leaned down as if checking on his order. "Those kids are about to swarm you," she whispered. "If you want to eat in peace, I can help." Relief washed over his face. "Please," he said quietly. "Just wanted a normal meal tonight." "Give me 30 seconds, Lily replied, straightening up with a professional smile. She hurried to the kitchen, quickly explained the situation to Hank, and grabbed the plate with Big Shaq's meatloaf that was just coming up. "Follow me," she told Big Shaq when she returned to his table. "Bring your coffee." As the teenagers closed in, phones held high, Lily led the famous rapper through the swinging doors into the kitchen. The staff looked up in surprise, but Hank just nodded knowingly. "Staff exits that way," she said, pointing to a metal door at the back. It leads to the alley. There's a taxi stand if you turn right at the end. Big Shaq looked at the steaming plate in her hands. What about my food? Lily grinned and grabbed a takeout container from a shelf, quickly transferring the meatloaf and sides. Can't let you miss out on Hank's cooking. As they reached the back door, she noticed the rain was still coming down hard. Without hesitation, she grabbed her own umbrella that was propped against the wall, a bright yellow thing with a broken spoke that her daughter had picked out because it had ducks on it. Take this, she said, handing him both the food and the umbrella. It's not fancy, but it'll keep you dry. Big Shaq stared at her, clearly surprised by the gesture. What about you? Won't you need this later? Lily shrugged. My shift ends in an hour. Maybe it'll stop raining by then. Why are you helping me? He asked, genuinely curious. Lily thought about it for a moment. Everyone deserves to eat their dinner in peace, she said simply, famous or not. He smiled then, a real smile that made him look younger, more like the person behind the celebrity. What's your name? Lily, she replied, suddenly aware that she was neglecting her other tables. I'd better get back before I get in trouble. Enjoy the meatloaf. She quickly opened the door for him, watching as he ducked out into the rainy alley. Just before the door closed, he turned back. Thank you, Lily, seriously. And then he was gone, disappearing into the rain with her yellow duck umbrella and a container of Hank's famous meatloaf. Lily rushed back to the dining room, where the teenagers were looking around in confusion. She smoothly told them that the gentleman had gone to the restroom, offering to take their orders instead. Disappointed, they eventually settled at a table. What Lily didn't notice was her manager, Doug, standing near his office door. His thin face was pinched with disapproval as he watched her handle the teenagers. His eyes darted to the security monitors inside his office, which had captured the entire kitchen scene. For the next hour, Lily worked harder than ever, making up for the few minutes she'd spent helping Big Shaq. The teenagers eventually left, and the dinner rush began to slow. Her feet ached, and she was already calculating tonight's tips in her head. Maybe not enough for Zoe's sneakers, but at least they'd cover the electric bill that was past due. As she cleared her last table, Doug's voice cut through the now quieter diner. Lily, my office. Now. Something in his tone made her stomach drop. The other waitstaff exchanged worried glances as she wiped her hands on her apron and walked toward the back office. Whatever this was about, it couldn't be good. The rain continued to beat against the windows, but the cozy feeling from earlier had vanished. As Lily knocked on Doug's office door, she had no idea that her simple act of kindness was about to cost her everything. Lily's hand trembled slightly as she pushed open Doug's office door. The small room felt even smaller with Doug sitting behind his cluttered desk, arms crossed over his chest. His balding head gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights, and his thin lips were pressed into a tight line. Close the door, he said flatly. Lily did as she was told, then stood awkwardly in the middle of the room. There was an empty chair, but Doug hadn't invited her to sit. Do you know why I called you in here? Doug asked, his voice unnervingly calm. Lily's mind raced. Maybe someone had complained about their food. Or maybe one of her tables had walked out without paying. She swallowed hard and shook her head. Doug reached for his computer mouse and clicked a few times. Then he swiveled the monitor around so Lily could see it. On screen was security footage showing the kitchen from about an hour earlier. There she was, leading Big Shaq through the kitchen and out the back door. Oh, Lily said softly, her shoulders dropping. That? Yes, that. Doug leaned back in his chair. Want to explain why you took a customer through a restricted area and out the emergency exit? Lily took a deep breath. He was being bothered by some teenagers with phones. He just wanted to eat in peace, so I helped him leave quietly. And who was this VIP that deserved special treatment? Doug's voice dripped with sarcasm. It was Big Shaq, Lily replied. You know the rapper. Doug's eyebrows shot up momentarily before his face returned to its stern expression. So you abandoned your other tables to play bodyguard for a celebrity? I didn't abandon. I watched the footage, Lily. You left the dining room for almost 5 minutes. Table 9 was trying to get your attention, and the Hendersons were waiting for their check. Lily felt her cheeks grow hot. I'm sorry about that. It won't happen again. You're right about that. Doug straightened a stack of papers on his desk. Because you're fired. The words hit Lily like a physical blow. What? Doug, please, I need this job. You broke at least 3 company policies. Doug ticked them off on his fingers. 1. Allowing a non-employee into the kitchen. 2. Using the emergency exit for a non-emergency. 3. Neglecting your assigned tables. But I've worked here for 3 years, Lily protested, her voice cracking. I've never been late. I've covered more shifts than anyone else. Can't you just give me a warning? Doug sighed, looking almost bored. The rules are there for a reason, Lily. What if that guy had slipped and fallen in the kitchen? We'd be liable. What if he'd been some crazy fan instead of who you thought he was? Lily stood there, speechless. All she could think about was Zoe waiting at home with the babysitter. About the stack of bills on her kitchen counter. About her tuition payment coming due next week. I have a daughter, she said quietly. I'm a single mom. Something flickered across Doug's face, a moment of doubt perhaps, but it quickly disappeared. You should have thought about that before escorting customers through restricted areas. Clean out your locker and turn in your name tag. Payroll will mail your final check. Lily felt numb as she slowly unpinned her name tag. 3 years at this place, and it was over just like that. For helping someone. The unfairness of it all made her throat tight with unched tears. Outside Doug's office, her coworkers looked at her with sympathy as she went to her locker. Word traveled fast in restaurants. Hank came out from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron. That ain't right, he muttered, glaring toward Doug's office. You were just being decent to another human being. Lily managed a weak smile. Thanks, Hank. I'll miss your cooking. Where will you go? Asked Mai, another waitress who often covered shifts when Lily needed to attend classes. I don't know, Lily admitted, gathering her few belongings. But I'll figure something out. I always do. As she pushed open the front door of the diner, the rain had finally stopped. The streets glistened under the streetlights, and a cool breeze carried the scent of wet pavement. Lily stood there for a moment, clutching her bag to her chest, trying not to panic about what tomorrow would bring. Lily fumbled with her keys at the apartment door, trying to be quiet. It was nearly midnight. Mrs. Patel from next door had agreed to watch Zoe until Lily's shift ended, but that was supposed to be at 10 p.m. Now she was 2 hours late and jobless. When she finally got the door open, Mrs. Patel was dozing on the couch, the TV playing softly in the background. The kind elderly woman startled awake. I'm so sorry, Lily whispered, setting down her bag. Something happened at work. Mrs. Patel waved away her apology. Not to worry, dear. Zoe has been asleep for hours. Such a good girl. She studied Lily's face. You look troubled. Everything okay? Lily bit her lip, fighting back tears. I lost my job tonight. Oh, child. Mrs. Patel stood and wrapped Lily in a warm hug that smelled of cardamom and cloves. What happened? After Lily explained, Mrs. Patel shook her head disapprovingly. Some people have forgotten what kindness looks like. Don't you worry about watching Zoe tomorrow. I can help while you look for something new. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Mrs. Patel patted her arm. That's what neighbors do. After Mrs. Patel left, Lily checked on Zoe, who was fast asleep in their shared bedroom, her stuffed giraffe clutched tightly in her small arms. Looking at her daughter's peaceful face made Lily's chest ache. She had exactly $247 in her checking account. Rent was due in 2 weeks, $850. Then there was the electric bill, Zoe's daycare, and tuition for her business classes. Back in the living room, Lily sank onto the couch and pulled out her phone. She opened her banking app, staring at the balance as if willing the numbers to increase. Next, she checked her calendar. 3 big assignments due next week, on top of now having to job hunt. She switched to a job search app and began scrolling through listings. Waitress needed at Pinky's Bar, night shifts only. Barista wanted, must have 3 years experience. Retail associate, part-time, minimum wage. Nothing that would pay enough. Nothing that would work with her class schedule. Nothing that would let her be there for Zoe. The clock ticked past 1 a.m., then 2 a.m. Lily's eyes burned from staring at her phone, but she kept scrolling, kept applying to jobs that might not even call her back. She made lists of expenses that could be cut. The internet? No, she needed it for school. Her phone plan? Already the cheapest available. Maybe she could sell some clothes or that watch her grandmother had given her. Around 3 a.m., she curled up on the couch, too exhausted to make it to bed. Her phone slipped from her fingers as she finally dozed off, open to a page of apartment listings in a cheaper part of town. Her dreams were a jumble of anxieties. Doug's stern face. Zoe crying because they had to move. The shame of calling her parents for money after promising she could make it on her own. She woke with a jolt at 5:30 a.m. to the sound of her alarm. For a moment, she forgot everything, reaching automatically to turn it off for her morning shift. Then reality crashed back. No job to go to, no paycheck coming. Lily forced herself up and into the shower, letting the hot water wash over her while she tried to think. She had applied to 6 places last night. Today, she would try in person at other restaurants. Someone would hire her. They had to. She made coffee and packed Zoe's lunch for daycare, one less expense today thanks to Mrs. Patel's offer to watch her. As she spread peanut butter on bread, she noticed her hands were steady despite everything. Life had thrown her curveballs before, and she'd always managed to keep swinging. By 7 a.m., Zoe was up, chattering about a dream she had about flying giraffes. Lily smiled and nodded, pushing her worries aside to be present for her daughter. Zoe didn't need to know about adult problems. "Mommy, why aren't you wearing your work clothes?" Zoe asked, suddenly noticing Lily's jeans and t-shirt instead of her usual black pants and white shirt. Lily knelt down to her daughter's level. "I'm going to be looking for a new job today, something even better than the diner." "Can I come?" Zoe asked hopefully. "Not today, sweetie. You get to stay with Mrs. Patel and help her bake cookies. How does that sound?" Zoe's face lit up, worries forgotten. If only adult problems could be solved with cookies, Lily thought. Just as they finished breakfast, there was a knock at the door. It was too early for Mrs. Patel. Lily frowned, wondering who could be visiting at 7:30 in the morning. Lily glanced through the peephole and froze. She couldn't believe her eyes. Standing in the hallway was Big Shaq himself, dressed in a casual black hoodie but looking much more put together than he had at the diner. Next to him stood a woman with a professional camera and a man holding what looked like a microphone. And behind them, shifting uncomfortably from foot to foot, was Doug. "Mummy, who is it?" Zoe asked, trying to peek around Lily's legs. Just a minute, sweetie." Lily smoothed down her hair and glanced at her reflection in the hallway mirror. She looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes and her hair hastily pulled back in a messy ponytail. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door. "Good morning," Big Shark said with a wide smile. "Lily Chen, right?" Lily nodded, too stunned to speak. "I'm sorry to show up at your home like this," he continued. "Your manager, former manager, helped us find you." He gestured toward Doug, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "How did you? Why are you?" Lily stammered, unable to form a complete sentence. Big Shaq laughed. "May we come in? I'll explain everything." Lily hesitated, then stepped back to let them enter her small apartment. She was suddenly very aware of the cramped living room with its second-hand furniture, the pile of textbooks on the coffee table, and Zoe's toys scattered across the floor. "Sorry for the mess," she mumbled, quickly gathering up a few stuffed animals. "Are you a real rapper?" Zoe piped up, staring at Big Shark with wide eyes. "I saw you on my babysitter's phone." Big Shark crouched down to Zoe's level. "I am indeed. And what's your name, young lady?" "I'm Zoe and I'm 5.5, she declared proudly. "Why are you in our house?" "Zoe," Lily said, embarrassed. "Don't be rude." Big Shark laughed. "It's a fair question. I'm here because your mom did something really nice for me yesterday, and I wanted to thank her properly." The camera woman cleared her throat. "Should we set up?" Big Shaq nodded. "If that's okay with you, Lily." "Set up?" Lily echoed, confused. "I'm filming a documentary," Big Shaq explained. "About random acts of kindness and the people behind them. What you did yesterday, helping me avoid those fans, giving me your umbrella even though it was pouring rain. That's exactly the kind of story I want to tell." Lily blinked, still trying to process what was happening. But it wasn't anything special. Anyone would have done the same. "That's where you're wrong," Big Shark said seriously. Your manager here. He jerked a thumb toward Doug, who was studying his shoes intently. Actually fired you for it, didn't he? Lily nodded slowly, glancing at Doug. His face was flushed with what might have been embarrassment. See, not everyone would have done what you did, Big Shaq continued. And that's why I'm here. I want to hear your story. About working at the diner, about your daughter, about your dreams. My dreams? Lily repeated. Your textbooks, Big Shaq said, gesturing to the pile on the coffee table. Business management, right? You're studying while working full-time and raising a daughter. That's impressive. Lily felt her cheeks warm. I'm just trying to build a better life for Zoe. And that's exactly what makes your story worth telling, Big Shaq said. He turned to the camera crew. Let's set up in the living room, if that's okay with Lily. As the crew began arranging lights and checking sound levels, Big Shaq pulled Lily aside. There's something else, he said, lowering his voice. I know you lost your job because of me, and I want to make that right. You don't have to, Lily began. Actually, I do, Big Shaq interrupted. It's only fair. From across the room, Doug cleared his throat. Ms. Chen, about yesterday, he said stiffly. I may have been hasty in my decision. Lily raised an eyebrow. Hasty? Doug looked pained. What I'm trying to say is, your position at the Golden Spoon is still open if you want it. Lily stared at him in disbelief, then looked at Big Shaq, who was smiling mysteriously. Actually, Big Shaq said, I think Lily might want to hear all her options before making a decision. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope. This is for you. Lily took the envelope with trembling hands, not sure what to expect next. Whatever was happening, it felt like her life was about to change in ways she couldn't even imagine. Lily stared at the envelope in her hands, suddenly aware that the camera was rolling. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened it. Inside was a check. As she read the amount, her knees nearly buckled. $50,000? She whispered, looking up at Big Shaq in disbelief. This has to be a mistake. No mistake, Big Shaq said, his warm smile reaching his eyes. Consider it an investment in your future and Zoe's. I can't accept this, Lily said, trying to hand the check back. It's too much. All I did was help you avoid some fans and give you my umbrella. Big Shaq gently pushed her hand away. It's not just about the umbrella, Lily. It's about what that gesture represents. In a world where everyone wants something from celebrities, a photo, an autograph, a story to tell their friends, you treated me like a regular person who just wanted to eat in peace. The camera woman moved closer, capturing Lily's shocked expression. What will you do with it? Big Shaq asked, genuinely curious. Lily's mind was racing. With $50,000, she could pay off her student loans. She could move to a better apartment in a safer neighborhood. She could put money aside for Zoe's education. I don't know, she stammered. Pay bills, finish school, maybe start a small business someday. That's exactly why I want you to have it, Big Shaq said. But there's more. Lily blinked, still trying to process the check in her hands. More? Big Shaq turned to Doug, who stepped forward looking uncomfortable in the spotlight. Tell her, Big Shaq prompted. Doug cleared his throat. As I mentioned, your position at the Golden Spoon is still available. Actually, Big Shaq interrupted, that's not quite accurate anymore. Tell her the truth, Doug. Doug's face reddened. Right. Well, the thing is, Ms. Chen, Lily, Mr. Shaq here was quite upset when he learned you were fired because of him. So upset, Big Shaq added, that I decided to make a few phone calls last night. Phone calls? Lily echoed. Doug nodded stiffly. Mr. Shaq has purchased the Golden Spoon diner chain from the corporate owners. All 6 locations. Lily's jaw dropped. You bought the diners? But why? Why not? Big Shaq shrugged. It's a good investment. The food is excellent, especially that meatloaf. But more importantly, it gave me the chance to right a wrong. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box, which he handed to Lily. She opened it to find a set of keys. The keys to the diner, Big Shaq explained. I need someone to manage the place, someone who understands good customer service and treats people with kindness and respect. Lily stared at the keys. You want me to be the manager? But I don't have any management experience. You're studying business management, aren't you? Big Shaq asked, gesturing to her textbooks. Consider this your practical training. The current manager, he glanced at Doug, has agreed to step down to an assistant role and show you the ropes. Doug's tight smile confirmed this wasn't entirely his idea. I don't know what to say, Lily whispered. Said yes. Zoe piped up from where she'd been watching the whole exchange with wide eyes. The adults laughed, breaking the tension. Does this mean we'll get free milkshakes? Zoe asked hopefully. Within reason, Lily said automatically, then paused, realizing she was already considering the offer. She looked at Big Shaq. Are you serious about this? You barely know me. I'm a good judge of character, he replied. And the way you helped me yesterday told me everything I need to know about you. The camera woman moved in closer. This is gold, she murmured to her colleague. Big Shaq ignored her, keeping his focus on Lily. So what do you say? Ready to change your life? Lily looked around her small apartment, at the worn furniture and piles of bills. She looked at Zoe's hopeful face. She thought about all the nights she'd stayed up late studying, dreaming of a better future. Then she looked at the keys in one hand and the check in the other. Yes, she said finally, her voice growing stronger. Yes, I accept. Big Shaq broke into a huge grin and held out his hand. Congratulations, Miss Chen. You're now the manager of the Golden Spoon. As they shook hands, Lily couldn't help but think about how differently she'd felt just 24 hours ago, serving tables and worrying about making ends meet. One small act of kindness had completely changed the course of her life. Sometimes, Big Shaq said, as if reading her thoughts, the universe has a way of rewarding good people when they least expect it. 6 months later, Lily stood behind the counter of the Golden Spoon, watching the busy lunch crowd with a smile. The place looked different now, brighter, with fresh paint and new booths. The menu had been updated too, though Hank's famous meatloaf remained the star attraction. Order up. Hank called from the kitchen, sliding 2 plates onto the counter. His gruff voice couldn't hide his good mood. Since Lily had taken over, the kitchen staff had gotten raises and better hours. Hank had even contributed some new recipes to the menu. Thanks, Hank, Lily said, passing the plates to May, who was now the head waitress. Table 12, right? May nodded, balancing the plates with practiced ease. They'd also wanted to know if you're here today. Said they came specifically because they read about the diner in that magazine article. Lily laughed. Since Big Shaq's documentary had aired 3 months ago, the Golden Spoon had become something of a local attraction. People came not just for the food, but to see the waitress-turned-manager whose act of kindness had changed her life. The bell above the door jingled, and Lily looked up to see Mrs. Patel enter with Zoe in tow. School had just let out for the day, and Mrs. Patel still picked Zoe up sometimes, despite Lily's insistence that she could pay for proper after-school care now. Mommy. Zoe ran to the counter, her backpack bouncing. I got a gold star in math today. Lily came around the counter to give her daughter a hug. That's fantastic, sweetie. Tell me all about it. While Zoe chatted enthusiastically about her day, Lily led her and Mrs. Patel to what the staff jokingly called the manager's table, a corner booth with a good view of both the dining room and the street outside. A small play area had been set up nearby with books and toys for kids whose parents needed to eat in peace. That was my idea, Lily had proudly told Big Shaq when he'd visited last month. No parent should have to gulp down their food because their child is bored. The family-friendly changes had paid off. Business was up 30% across all 6 diners in the chain, and Lily had implemented similar improvements at each location. Will your famous friend be visiting again soon? Mrs. Patel asked as she settled into the booth. He was such a gentleman. He's in London for a few weeks, Lily replied, pouring coffee for Mrs. Patel and hot chocolate for Zoe. But he said he'll stop by next time he's in town. Big Shaq had become a regular customer, often bringing other celebrities who, like him, appreciated a drama-free place to eat. Each visit brought a flurry of excitement, but Lily had established a strict no photos without permission policy that was respected by staff and customers alike. Lily? A voice called from behind her. She turned to see Doug, who was wiping down menus at the host stand. In the first weeks after the ownership change, Doug had been sullen and resentful about his demotion. But over time, as he saw how Lily's changes improved not just profits but the workplace atmosphere, his attitude had softened. Now he handled the scheduling and bookkeeping, tasks he was actually good at, while Lily managed the people and the big picture. "The new hire is here for her interview," Doug said, gesturing toward a young woman waiting by the door. "Be right there," Lily nodded, turning back to Zoe. "Honey, stay with Mrs. Puttle while Mommy talks to someone, okay?" As Lily walked toward the waiting applicant, she caught her reflection in the large mirror behind the counter. She looked different now, more confident, less tired. Her business classes were going well, and she only had one semester left before graduation. The transformation wasn't just in her appearance or her bank account. It was in how she carried herself, how she spoke, how she planned for the future instead of just surviving day to day. Through the front windows, Lily could see the yellow bench she'd had installed outside the diner. A small brass plaque on it read, "Sometimes kindness comes back to you in ways you never expect." Big Shaq had suggested the quote when they'd reopened the diner after renovations. At the time, Lily had thought it might be too cheesy. Now, watching her daughter happily coloring at their booth, seeing her staff working together smoothly, and feeling the weight of the business degree she'd soon complete, she knew it was perfectly true. One small act of kindness, helping a stranger in the rain, had transformed not just her life, but the lives of everyone around her. As Lily greeted the nervous job applicant with a warm smile, she silently promised to keep that chain of kindness going, one person at a time.